Welcome to Fika for Life. My name is Edward Thomas, and my co-host is You sounded like a
mouse.
No, not a mouse. Like one of those like pissling,
Pissling.
Those little people that live in the forest in Sweden. If you ever visit Sweden, there's pissling. If you go to the forest and you lay down, and then you put a cracker in your nose, they'll come and they'll take the cracker.
They get you.
They look like squirrels, but they're really small people.
Okay.
They're just hairy.
I thought it was small fairies. Anyway.
Mini Bigfoots.
What are we talking about today, Edward?
We're talking about will we grow up to be like our parents?
The greatest fear of every human being
exactly.
ever born.
Yes. Because you were talking about Numi, and I was like, oh my gosh, she has your temperament. You're like, no, she doesn't. I'm like, okay.
No.
Punch me in my eye.
She does. Like, she me.
I know.
But I said she me without the spanking.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I got spanked. She doesn't. So
she's going to be worse.
You can see the whole force of nature happening there. Like there's no dam to stop that tsunami coming.
No. It's really funny though that.
But for people who don't know, Nomi is my daughter. She's my oldest child. She's 5 now. Woo, she
5 going on 30. You should see her.
She's 5 going on a 14-year-old.
You should see her at church. She's in charge of the Sunday school. All the kids, she's like, nope, this is what you're going to do. We're going to play this, and this is what you're going to do. And all these like other kids are all like following her because they're like, she's the natural born leader.
But don't you know that she's like something she's dissing other kids, and then they're having like a dramatic breakdown, and she's just like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, girl, you mean.
Yeah. She's like, I do, but you have natural leadership talent. That's where she gets it from. The ability to make other people do things you want them to do.
Feel bad. Shame them.
Exactly. She has your compassion.
0 compassion.
Well, kids, what they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
She's a really big apple.
Yeah. And the tree was huge. Its branches go really far out. No, there's no way an apple is going to fall far from the tree. It's just...
But I mean, I don't know how Jonas was as a child that much, but I guess our son, Itai, he's 1.5 now. He's more like Jonas, I guess.
He is.
He's more like...
He is. He looks like Jonas. He acts like Jonas. He's like mini Jonas.
But he's so happy and engaged.
I know.
Most of the
but
time.
Jonas is. He's just like...
No,
like Jonas, look. There's a tsunami coming. He's like, oh, okay.
It's like,
I guess we should go to safety. He's all calm. I'm like, there's a tsunami coming. Get on the people. Children. I'm like screaming and acting crazy. And he's like,
oh
all calm.
gosh, I don't want Itai to be like Jonas.
Yes,
Nothing
you
against
do.
my husband, but some things are just like, no.
I don't want my daughters to be like my wife, but...
Are they?
No.
No.
No, they are, actually. So it's really weird what the kids all take after. They take after different things. So like...
You have 3 baby mamas, so they have to take after
somebody. Well, obviously
mamas.
the mamas are like, they're not that important. It's only me.
It's only you. Okay.
My genes. We're not talking about those women. They're not important. They're just baby carriers for me.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
People who don't know, they're like, woo.
I was like, I'm going to slap that Edward Thomas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, come and try it. There's a whole line of people waiting to slap me.
True that.
Thank you. Wow. Gee whiz.
So were you concerned that you would turn out like your dad or your mom?
Both. I didn't want to be
concerned, or
I didn't want to be like
them?
either one of them. Like, I love my mom dearly. I have a great relationship with my mom. I don't want to be her. Okay, that's just this thing in my life. Please, God, don't let me be like my mom. And I am so much like my mother and my father. It's really sad.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's everything.
Did you actively work against it? Because I think
thought I did.
All kids are like, no, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, like I really thought I was going to make different decisions in my life, you know? I think we said this before to our listeners that, my dad has had nothing to do with my life until I was like 35. And so
by that time you were already
by that time I was already like, don't need him. I'm okay. No. And so
kinda.
And then what happened is that when my dad died and I went through his stuff, that's when the revelation hit me that, oh my gosh. So I like to collect buttons and I like to collect patches. I don't even know why I like to do it. It's just one of those things. I like patches.
Yeah.
Like I like to collect them and I want to put them on my clothes. Backpack. And then that's like, don't do that.
You are too old for this.
She's like, that's a nerd warning. Zzz, don't do that. You're going to embarrass me. I'm like, but I just want to have a jean jacket and a bunch of pants.
All the
and then have like all the patches on it.
You're like undercurrent.
She's like, don't. And then when my dad died, I went in, he had his drawer and I opened it up. So I took all the patches. Oh,
obviously.
I didn't tell my sister. I'm sorry.
It
wasn't part of the inheritance. No, they were mine. No, but I took all the patches. And then I took all the buttons that he had. And I'm like, whoo. And then my dad had.
Wow.
He had so much music. And so if you come to our house, like when you walk in the door, there's just a gigantic shelving bookcase thing filled with CDs. I have like 400 CDs because when CDs were in, I bought like every time a new worship song came out, a new Christian rap thing came out, Christmas music. So I have like sections, and I have like over 300 CDs, and then all my cookbooks. And my dad had all this music, so it was like, jazz. So he had tons of music. And I was like, oh no,
yes.
And his favorite thing to eat was grilled salmon, and my favorite thing to eat is grilled salmon. And I'm so.
That's when like nature beats nurture.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm like,
because you didn't grow up with him. It's not like he taught you, well, you should eat this. Or you should
nothing. I don't know anything about the man until after he died. And then I'm like, and then it turns out my dad was like a boat rocker. He like wrote at his job about injustice and racism and stuff like that. And
you were like, oh.
And wait, Lynn. And then I looked at my dad's picture from the military. He's the only black guy on his ship.
And you look at the picture when you became a priest.
I'm the only black guy.
You're the only black guy on that ship.
In school, at work, I'm the only black guy at work. Like almost every job I've had in my whole life, I'm the only black guy there at work. And I'm just like, oh no.
It's a legacy he left you without you knowing.
Wow, legacy. We could have kept that one, put into an envelope somewhere and got rid of it. I'm like, ah. And then I'm like, my mom is the pastor of a really tiny church.
And you are?
The pastor of a tiny church. And I really wanted to be the pastor of a really big church. I mean, I really wanted to be like famous. Write books and
writing.
I'm not.
No. Sorry.
No. And so.
You should blame your ma.
I know it's her fault, huh?
You should tell her, if you would have been a pastor at a great church,
exactly.
I would have been.
Exactly. Set me up for failure later. No. Mom, I love you. I'm just joking. It's for our podcast. We say things like this. I don't want her sandal to come flying across the Atlantic Ocean in my
like
face.
A real Asian and African mama.
Oh, hey. They love to hit.
They love to spank.
I know. They're like into all that discipline.
Well,
so are you like your dad or like your mom or?
I don't want to be like either of them at all. Like,
that means that you really like them.
But the thing is, though, that your mom is a Christian, obviously, but my parents are not.
No.
So I think that's a real thing that sets me aside. And I can see in my brother, for example, I think my brother is much, much more like my parents than what I am. I'm also like my parents in a way. My mom likes to cook and do crafty things. I like to cook and do crafty things. I have a really temper. Both of my parents have a really bad temper.
But I've never seen your mom's temper, though.
Because you don't understand.
she's probably saying that.
She ain't your friend.
She's like, stupid black man. Why do you think he was come here? He always wants you to make soup for him. Make four. And I'm like, oh, hey, you're so nice and lovely.
No, that's the Asian thing. You only be the dragon at home. When you have guests, you should not let...
Yeah, of course.
Dude, your family, that's why I'm the way I am to you. But if you were...
wow.
Like,
jeez.
Please.
Thank you for the love. It's like, yes.
And also, I grew up in a different culture than my parents. So a lot of things shifted for me. It's really hard to be... Or it's hard for me to see exactly my parents were like this, I'm like this. But, I'm really social, and my mom, both my parents used to be really social. My mom used to be really social. Like, we would do a lot of things, and my mom has always been really hospitable, which I also am.
Yeah.
I think. Even though Jonas the other day, he's like, but see, we got kids, we're not as hospitable anymore, no? And I'm like, dude, One
Wow.
thing is you got kids, okay? It's not like, okay, anyone can come in our house anymore. Like most people can come in our house at almost every time, anytime.
Yeah.
But
You
it's
guys
not,
still have more people over at your house than most other people in
yeah,
our
and
church.
it's like it's normal to like step back maybe one step when you have kids. Like it's okay, it's okay.
Well, I mean, if you were really hospitable,
Yeah,
you know, you let me take pictures now at the next birth.
no, no
See?
way,
You're so mean to
no
me.
way.
You just closed me out of your life.
And then I told them, "What is COVID, dude? It's not. It's not like, hey, let's invite people home." They're like, "Yeah, sure, let's go."
Sure. No vaccination, no mask. We just come over
Yeah,
and
like-
infect each other, you know, every week. It's like,
Every week.
Nice.
Well, those things, I think. And then my parents always wanted to help, or at least my mom.
Yeah.
She always wanted to help people, which she did, and friends and stuff. So
That's probably why you do it.
yeah.
I mean, you are.
And my mom is really good at like cutting people off when
Is
it's
she?
too much. So I'm
Does
like,
she?
yeah, and I'm like, I'm good at that too. I don't
Yes, you
care.
are. I know.
No, I do care, but if it's too much, then it's too much.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like
But I think a good thing is the hospitality thing and the friendship thing. The bad thing is maybe the temper
yeah.
and like how I handle conflict. So I can see that in my marriage as well. Like I can see me being my parents, like, oh, I have to stop this.
Wow.
Like, bad pattern.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, since I didn't grow up with my dad, I don't have any physical role model because I've never really seen my mom in a healthy relationship, which is
You're like,
that might explain a lot of things. and then
You've seen how to not do it.
exactly. I think I just copied. I was like, oh, okay.
This is
That's
how
it's
mom
done.
did it,
Yeah.
so I just do this.
No, but I find myself wanting to say things like my mother, like, you know, like sometimes that's, because I try to have a really open and positive relationship with my children as adults. So I try to do different than what my parents and what my grandparents did, which is not to meddle in their business, to be really chill, wait for them to ask me for my advice and not just give it all the time. But sometimes I just want to go, my house, my rules.
But it's true.
Because
My house, my rules.
That was my mom's thing. She's like, as long as you're in this house, it's my rules. I'm just like, oh, okay. I just want to have a beer. You know, there's no alcohol in my house. I was like, wow, lady, you just
Well,
like, it's not like I'm getting drunk or anything. I just want a beer. She's like, no, my house, my rules. I'm like, okay, you're right. Yes, ma'am.
I gotta move out.
Yeah. And then my kids are just like, wow, dad. No.
But maybe, don't you think that it affected you that you maybe went overboard to the other side, to the other ditch? Like if you grew up in
Nah.
one ditch and then
Nah.
the other ditch?
So between Annette and I, and we're probably not really all that strict, but I'm way stricter than she is. 'Cause she grew up Swedish. My wife is not strict at all. She's like, I'm like, you know, I think that we should make Nicole pay rent. She's like, I can't believe you would say that. It's like you hate our children. I'm like,
No,
like, it's
she's
really
an
normal.
adult.
Like it's really normal in that. She's like, no, never. It's her house too. We should be there for our children. We should give them everything they need. I'm like, oh, wait. I'm like, I had to earn everything I got. What are you talking
Like
about?
what?
So it is a little different being married to someone from another culture. And then seeing also that, like in our children, like Paulina, she's like me. She's really talkative. And she's really easy. Like Paulina, of all the kids, she was the first one. So, I mean, she started talking like months before any of the other kids. Like that was her big thing. Like, and she
Good
when
talking.
she was a baby, she spoke in these like really complete, clear. Like she never spoke baby language. She just spoke in like really completely clear sentences. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's like me.
Finally.
It was so great because we've always talked a lot. But then she's the only one of the kids who has like my Afro booty. So
You're
she's-
like, oh.
and she's always like, thanks, Dad. You gave me the big Afro booty. No one else has it, but you gave it to me. Thank you.
Maybe the Afro booty and the language thing are connected.
That could be.
Tell her, like, those genes are coupled. I can't help it.
And so, yeah, but I think but there's a lot of things that like the way that like I grew up as a Christian is way different than my family. And like my world is filled with people from different ethnicities and skin color and stuff like that. And I mean, it's not like my family doesn't like people who are not black, but almost the whole world, almost all their friends, everyone else is just black people. So
Because it's in their culture, I guess.
It's in my culture.
Yeah, but I think if you don't seek out other cultures or people, then you most probably, if you found a context to be in, no one will seek out
I guess
from that and let me go and collect some Chinese friends. Let me go and collect some white people friends. Some Indian friends.
That's what we should make another podcast. How to collect friends. We talked about hoarding friends. Now we can talk about collecting them.
Well, you collect buttons, so
yeah, so it's just like friends. Open my book. Oh, listen, wow, I need a couple more Asians here. I don't have enough to keep the balance in there.
The right kind of Asians. I already have those. I need the other ones. The limited edition ones.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think that there's things about my parents that I like. My dad was really violent, and that's one thing that I've always worked really hard at. I never want anyone to be. It's really weird because I want people to be afraid of me, but I don't want people to be afraid of me.
They want you to feel your authority without you having to exercise anything.
Yeah, I want them to be afraid when I walk in the room, but not afraid that I'm going to hit them.
But something bad maybe happen.
Yeah,
we do scream or something.
Yeah. I might just kill you, but but do what I say. No, but I think that in that part I like with my dad, where he was like when we were younger and my dad was selling drugs and stuff like that.
Oh wow!
Those are things like I said. My dad had a whole case of cocaine underneath the bed once.
Oh wow!
I remember that when the police came and stuff like that. My mom got on her knees and begged the police. They're like, okay, listen. You seem like a nice lady. You're trying to take care of kids. Obviously, you're with a really deadbeat guy. Mm-hmm. We'll come back in 10 minutes. If he's gone and the drugs are gone, because we can pick him up anywhere, then we'll leave you guys alone. But if he's still here,
we got to get him.
The whole family. So my dad took his drugs and he left. And so those are kind of things. Like I never, and I think that affected me. So when I was earlier and I had a relationship with this woman and she was really abusive, I couldn't hit her back. It didn't matter how much she hit me, or like she hit me with a car and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh!
This was like a really bad relationship, but I couldn't. And people ask me all the time, like, "You're so much bigger than her. Why don't you just pop her in the mouth?" I'm like, I can't. My dad used to beat me. He used to beat my mom, and I just
didn't want to go down that road.
Yeah. And I just feel like, I think, and I'm always afraid that if I go down that road, I'm going to be like him.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like that. So
I was thinking that like it only takes one punch.
Yeah. And I don't want to be that person.
And it could take one punch for you to get this adrenaline and just let this guard down. Yeah. And then suddenly it can lead to.
Yeah, it just spills over, and you don't know how to bring up that protection anymore, and all of a sudden you just like punching people all the time, and I just
anger,
and I think it's really important. Like Annette and I've been married for almost 30 years, and I don't, we have our fights and everything, and I've asked her before, I'm like, aren't you ever afraid? Like I'm just gonna punch you out. Like, she started laughing. It's like, okay, that's not really the response I'm looking for, but
you could package it in a nicer way.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, what about my ego? I'm Swedish, I don't care. And so so that part of it, where I felt like I had to make a decision not to be like something that I thought was really bad that my dad did, or like I felt like a lot of times my mom was really stepped on in a lot of different jobs and stuff like that, and she didn't really stand up for herself. Yeah. Like she should have sued. Like I remember she worked for Chevron, when she got pregnant with my brother, and then they fired her
for being pregnant.
Yeah, I'm like, that's discriminating. She should have stood up for herself. No, I don't want to do that. And all the times I see different things like that happen that she didn't really stand up like that. And I said, I don't want to be that kind of person. But
it's really like both extremes, because you said your father was a boat rocker and your mom was like being stepped on all the time. Yeah. So you're like,
yeah, it's kind of like. So, but then there's other things like in my personality. I feel I'm a lot like my mom and I can talk a lot about like the ministry and stuff like that. And my mom is really into the whole like, being a Christian, you should always help people. It's not just theology. And that's something that's like really important for me. It was really hard coming to Sweden, where you're either a theologian and you don't help people, you don't care, or you're a diakon and then you help people, but you're not a theologian. I'm like,
you don't talk about theology with the people you help.
Yeah, yes. I'm like, what? Well, people are jacked up here. So those are two things that I felt like that I took away. that I didn't want to be, and I've actively tried not to be like my parents in that regard. But
which is good because they're both exemplified to extreme.
yeah, it's like wow, where's the balance?
I mean, with my mom, for example, when we grew up, she used to always like badmouth my father's family, and it was easy to do so because she had so much bad experiences with them, and we were barely exposed to my dad's family. Like we met them every 6th year.
That's the same with
for
me.
like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not like you can build a relationship. By that time, there was no internet, there was no Facebook, there was nothing you could do. You can just call, and it's weird to talk to some aunt across the country or across the world.
Yeah.
And ask him, hey, how are you? Like, okay, cool. Like, fine.
Why she call me now?
Yeah, but it's really weird. Like, and it was really expensive back in the days to call,
exactly.
Over the ocean. And I think then when I became an adult and I went there and I actually met my father's family, and I'm like, I could make a picture of myself, and I'm not like her because I haven't had all the trauma that she had to go through.
Right.
Because she had this. Stereotypical, like, oh, you married into his family and they don't like you because you're the in-law now, and you're the daughter that you don't want, and blah blah. And my mom always told me how horrible it was that she had to take me home to Vietnam for my grandparents to see me because they were all black-mouthing or bad-mouthing my mom to my grandmother, that my mom must have been with someone and she got pregnant and just like made my dad responsible and stuff.
Wow.
And then she said, yeah, and that's why I had to like go across the world with you when you had only 2 months. Yeah. And by that time, I don't know how the regulations and stuff were and hygiene and stuff. And it was kind of risky. And then then she said my grandmother at some point like undressed me fully and looked at me like, no, this is definitely my son's child, and she's so alike him, and it was so weird.
Did you have like a penis?
No, I don't know.
What did she look at?
No, but I don't know my body posture or how I was built, whatever.
That's just the weirdest thing.
No, it's really it was really weird. But my mom had like all of these things, and them sending money, and the money disappeared, and things like trust issues,
Yeah.
And my father has always been so blindly loyal. Like, you give them money, it disappears. You don't know. And you said this is for safekeeping. Right. It disappears.
Wow.
And then he keeps doing that several times.
Really?
And then my mom is just like so annoyed and angry. And my father's like, yeah, but it's my family. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So I think that is really strange. And that's why when Jonas and me, we have a disagreement or something, or even when my mom talks to me and she says weird things like, oh, Jonas' family has to think this now, or maybe they are thinking like that. And I'm like, wow. No, they don't. Like, they're not like you. Like, they do never have this kind of thoughts whatsoever. Like, what
it's hard for her to understand because she doesn't have any reference point for that. So.
Yeah, but it's so weird that you would put, like, how you think on a totally different family from a different country, culture, social background. Like, and I'm like, no. Like, and I always think about that. Okay, whatever I tell my parents, whatever I talk with them about, I really have to shield myself to not let in this bad into me, because I'm like, no, this is bad. I'm like, I don't want to live like you guys. No. And I think it must have been hard because at some point when I was a bit younger, a bit stupider and less wiser, I told them like, I don't want to live like you guys. Like, I don't want to be like you guys. And that's a bit like undifferentiated.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be like you.
It's like, you're so bad.
Yeah, kind of like that. But what I meant, obviously, is that there are a lot of things that I see in your life that I don't want in my life. Right. And I try to do better. Yeah. So
that would have been a better way to phrase that.
Well, in your 20s you do stuff. Now I'm 30, I know, overnight
so
things happen.
I understand. You were so dumb when you were in your 20s. I remember. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh, I just want to slap her. She's so dumb. And then you got 30, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so wise.
Oh, I get so wise. So fast. So I think looking at Nomi, because I know what I struggled with and things like that. I look at her and I'm concerned because I'm like, what if she like has this and this struggles, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't want it to turn out like me in that way. So I'm like, oh. Yeah. And I mean, you can't meddle too much as a parent either.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's hard to figure out where the balance point is. There is no balance point.
But you said like your son, your firstborn son, Eddie, he's very like you.
Yeah. It's really weird because Eddie has Down syndrome. And so you would assume that we have nothing in common. But
so you are like a Down syndrome person?
Yes. Apparently. No, but Eddie, he loves he loves basketball. He loves to dance. I'm just saying all these things that we have in common. He loves to dance. He loves rap music. That's like his big thing. He's always walking around rapping. I walk around the house.
Wow.
I walk around the house. I rap almost every day. Like in the house, I'm just like, because Jesus Christ, the Savior and Lord, He's the King of Kings. Wow. And that's wow. Can you just stop it?
Can you just be quiet?
Just shut up. Like, you never stop talking. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you wake up in the morning, you start singing, rapping, and then you sit on the toilet, then you start preaching, and then it's like, and then you walk around talking to yourself, singing. I'm just like,
it's a bit much,
Yeah, it's like, it's
she still wants
quiet.
you around you.
I know why.
She still wants you around, though. So.
You know why she wants to be around me?
Why?
Because she knows I'm the best things ever happened to her life.
Oh, my God.
She'll never get another me. No, but Eddie, and we both, we love superhero movies. I know I'm 6 years old, but I love superhero movies. And we both like to watch movies. We like to watch superhero movies. We like animation. He doesn't like anime, but I obviously I love anime. And so there's just so many different things. So Eddie and I we always gotten along really, really well.
But then would you say,
which is really interesting. So.
With your dad, I mean, there's not so much nurture in this.
No.
But that you can feel is maybe nature, genetically somehow it is passed on. Yeah. But with Eddie, I mean, you raised him.
He grew
up with you. You raised him.
Yeah, I mean, I took care of him since he was born, and
so that's both nature and nurture.
Yeah, because Eddie and I still have this really close relationship. So if he thinks that I'm sad, it makes him sad. So if he comes home, he's like he comes to visit, he's like, "Hey, Dad, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay." He's like, "Oh, men pappa, du är inte glad." Oh my God.
He's an adult man. He's older than me, but I'm like, oh, thank you.
No, but Eddie's he's like my heart. If someone ever did something bad to him,
maybe you would punch them.
I would probably hurt the person. Yeah. I would where I could see myself being violent. That's someone doing something to my kids. Oh my gosh.
Well, I told you about the documentary we watched, Jonas and me, and then it was about children being molested and abused, sexually abused. And I told Jonas, if anyone would do anything like that to our kids, I would probably kill them.
I'll help you.
I would probably I'm serious. I don't think I could control myself.
No, me neither. No,
because I'm this is an innocent child. Yeah. What is wrong with you? You need to die.
Yeah, I would have a really hard time applying the biblical principle of
forgiveness.
Revenge. No, just revenge is mine, says the Lord. I'm like, can I just help you out a little bit?
You can always use you can ask for forgiveness after.
Exactly. After I break your legs, your fingers, chop them off, take out your tongue.
After I tortured you.
Exactly.
Does the Bible say you should not torture? It only says should not kill.
It just says you should not kill. It doesn't say you should not torture. Don't find anything in the Bible that says you should not torture.
Well, it says how you want to be treat others.
Hey, if I turn out to be a pervert, beat me up, torture me. I deserve it.
Wow.
No, but I think that that's the interesting part to see what parts of me have landed in my kids. My oldest daughter, Jessica, is really funny because we're always talking. And then she'll say something, and then I'll start laughing. She's like, "Oh, nay, not again. Please, Dad." I'm like, it's just like your dad. She's like, I'm trying so hard not to be like you. And the more I grow up, the older I get, the more I'm like you. Yeah. I'm like, ha, 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 ha.
And I think, okay, what is there hope for people out there who think I will not be like my parents?
But I mean, when I was doing training to be a premarital counselor and to talk to people about relationships, one of the things that I learned was that if a guy wants to know how his potential wife is going to be in the future, look at her mother, because to a large degree we become like our parents.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah,
like you can twist it though.
Yeah,
like
you can adjust it. You could take away things, you can add to things,
but
you're not commanded to be like your parents, but
the hardware.
But you will be. There's a lot of stuff there. You just can't get over it.
The hardware will be pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, the software you can meddle with, but the hardware is like.
Yeah, I mean, I can like after I've got to know my mother-in-law, I see so much of my mother-in-law in my wife. I'm like,
that's why.
That's why. It doesn't even bother me anymore because I'm like, apple didn't fall far from the tree. It's still on there. So it's I think that you can modify it, but you're that's.
There's a limit. There's a limit to it.
I'm sorry, but green apples don't turn red. Okay.
But I mean, in your case, for example, you are a lot like your dad, but you cut out the worst of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's a lot of things
being
like my
violent
dad.
and criminal
I don't
and
want to
stuff.
be like that. Yeah.
You cut it out, but still you're very much like him.
Yeah.
And then you pass it on to Eddie.
Yes.
And he's not a criminal or violent, so that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah. So hopefully we can pass on more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff, So
people, don't be sad if you will see some parts of you being like your parents, because can't you twist it? Make it better?
Yeah.
Make the dish better?
Yeah. I mean, don't give up. Don't feel like, I'm just going to be just like them. You don't have to be. You can always make, if you come from parents, I mean, and you see that a lot with people who have parents with addictive behavior and stuff like that. There's a high probability that you might repeat that, or maybe not. You don't have to. You don't have to.
There are 3 things. I went to a class when I was only in high school about addiction.
Wow.
And it says there are 3 components to it. One's a genetic one. You can't help that.
No.
Because your genes are your genes.
Yeah.
The second one is your own personal attitude towards drugs and stuff. And the third one is exposure.
Okay.
So you need at least 2 of these things to be addicted.
Okay.
Because even if you have a gene, if you're not exposed and you don't want to be addict, you will not become an addict.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also,
that makes sense.
Even if you don't have the gene, you can still be an addict if you feel like, oh, drugs are good. And your friends come, hey, take some cocaine.
You're like, oh, there you go. Thank you for the freebie.
So there are a lot of things like you still have power over.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's our message for the day. You have the power.
Part of
okay.
Some
you have some
power.
You don't really have the power. You can just tweak it.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks everyone. Don't continue to write to us. And hey, now that all the restrictions are lifted in Sweden,
come visit us.
Come and visit us. You can come and hug us now. Woohoo! Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, Fika. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.